moment. Let's pull up TeamLease Services for you. That stock shot up and has corrected marginally, 1/3% down today after they acquired NichePro Solutions, which is NichePro Technologies, which is a staffing company which works in staffing solutions for IT product companies. And I'm joined by the management right now, Mr. Ashok Reddy, CEO and MD. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Reddy. What does this do for you? This buying this company, acquiring it, what does this add?
I think historically TeamLease was structured for the general staffing space. It's a low margin space, but I think clearly we wanted to get into the verticals that are higher margin plays, and one of them being the IT staffing space. And the acquisition of ASAP earlier and NichePro now gives us a strong opening balance into the IT staffing space. ASAP was focused on IT services companies, NichePro is focused on IT product companies. So I think it gets us a team, it gets us an opening balance with clients, and we need to effectively work the element of build up and ramp up from it.
29.5 crore enterprise value. How much debt are you taking on from that company?
There isn't much debt here. There is working capital requirement.
Okay.
So typically IT staffing companies work on a funding model where they have to fund the salaries of the associates and get paid from the clients after 60 to 90 days. So depending on the scale of the business, there is a working capital requirement. So about 5 to 7.5 crores will be roughly the working capital requirements of the company.
Mr. Reddy, in the press release I saw that you've said that you've given the EBITDA numbers, but you've also said that it's going to add to your bottom line almost immediately. So does it make a net income, or is it just EBITDA positive at this time?
No, it's EBITDA positive, it is PBT positive, and it's PAT positive.
All right.
So at an EBITDA level, they have about a 25% margin. At PBT, at PAT level, they're at about 18 to 19%. So I think there will be a bottom line accretive acquisition for us. Obviously, our intention is to get this asset and use that as an opening balance to build further into the IT staffing space. But as an opening balance, it will be bottom line accretive.
So you said that IT staffing is a slightly higher margin business. You're mentioning in terms of EBITDA margin, this is at about 25%. How does that compare with your margins?
We are at about a 1% on the general staffing space. So we play to volumes. So we have 120,000 associates. So the general staffing space is a volume space, but a low margin space.
Okay.
1% is low. We are having the economies of scale kicking in, and we will take that 1% up. But you know, it's never going to cross 2.5% the general staffing space.
Okay, people have been talking about salary cuts, job cuts in the IT space. But at that time, I understand IT products is still not being written off. But IT services, you were mentioning that you've already acquired one in the IT services space. Are you seeing a pressure there?
So what is happening is I think companies are acknowledging the need to outsource. The aspect of having all the employees and all the bodies on the rolls of the company, that mindset is changing. So we are clearly seeing a lot more companies and a lot more volumes playing to the element of outsourcing in the IT services companies. Also, historically, it was a highly fragmented market. You know, each company used to have 100, 200 plus vendors. And I think as we go forward, we'll see an element of consolidation on the vendor front also. So a combination of acceptance of outsourcing, not wanting to have all resources on board, and the element of consolidation is really the opportunity play for us into the staffing space.
So effectively, but the bias would be towards capturing market share, right?
Yes, for sure. I think we have an opening balance now with the two companies of about 1,150 associates. Obviously, aspiration is to be much larger, and opportunity from a market perspective is clearly there. So it is really driving up the element of growth now.
No, but the reason again I'm asking is because obviously, as you said, IT services and IT product business, the margins are much higher. You were saying that in general staffing it's 1%. Here it is 25%. But it's coming at a time when the rest of the world seems to be writing off traditional IT. I know that this particular company has Motorola, Google and companies like that as their client, and products are not being written off. But the question is, why enter this space at this time when it seems to be slowing down? Because I would imagine if I were your client and I would say my business is not doing that great, I cannot afford to give you this kind of margins.
So I think there is a value add that the companies provide to the companies, the flexibility that comes with outsourcing, the element of access to resources that comes with outsourcing, the element of the support mechanisms that kick in for the employees, associates, that benefits the company. So there is a willingness to pay a certain cost on that front. And in the larger scheme of things, when we look at saying, you know, it's a 17% margin or a 25% margin, these are affordable margins for the companies, you know, for the benefits that they're getting. Historically, this margin was and used to be higher at a point when there was also a bench ask. But companies have realized that, you know, do away with the bench ask, reduce the margin payments, and effectively get the resources as and when required. And the margins have now stabilized at a 17 to 25% range.
You know, I just take some anecdotal evidence, and now not about this particular company, but overall staffing kind of demand that you're seeing. My driver, who's been working with me for more than now 11 years, and he's been trying to get his son a job for years, and I've been trying to help him and failing miserably, actually, to be honest, to get him a job. And the prospects don't seem to have got any better for him right now. But what are you seeing? Are things improving? Are more people hiring? Are more jobs being created? Or is it just going to be a margin expansion that you're looking at, and rather than, or market share that you're going to take rather than an overall pie increasing?
No, I think, look, obviously, when we talk about the 25% year-on-year growth that we've had over the last 7 years and we hope to sustain to the future, we are looking at increasing the size of the pie and getting a larger share of that pie. But the reality for us is that, you know, we feel at times very good about the fact that we've given a job every 5 minutes of our existence for the last 8-10 years. But also we feel bad about the fact that less than 5% of the kids who came to us seeking a job got a job. You know, there is a challenge of employability and education in the country. You know, a lot of kids come to us having degrees and certificates, but they don't have the skill sets that the industry is asking for. You know, there's nearly 56% of the graduates don't have employability skills. So there is a challenge on that front. But that is not to say that hiring is not happening or employment opportunities are not opening up. And there is also a large transition that has to happen from the informal sector to the formal sector.
Right.
You know, nearly 50% of India's employment is outsourced, and 98.5% of that is in the informal sector. We have to formalize that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Reddy, for taking out time for us. Pleasure talking to you.